All right, let's dive right into this explainer and try to solve one of history's absolute greatest whodunits. Where exactly did the incredibly advanced Indus Valley civilization come from? I mean, we're looking at one of the world's earliest, most sophisticated urban cultures, but for the longest time, its true origins were shrouded in total mystery. Did it just pop up out of nowhere? Was it brought over by ancient travelers? Well, today, we're going to crack this case wide open.
So, here is our investigation board for today. First, we'll look at the Indus Valley revealed. 2. Tracing the ancient timeline. 3. Debating the origins. 4. The homegrown evidence. And finally, number 5, the living Indus legacy.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Indus Valley revealed.
Before we can even attempt to solve the mystery of its origins, we first need to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this civilization. We're talking about a massive, sprawling geographical footprint that covers parts of modern-day Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. It was absolutely thriving along major river systems, specifically the Indus and the Ghaggar-Hakra rivers. You've got these major urban centers, right? Places like Harappa up in the north and Mohenjo-Daro further south, and they're all connected by these vital waterways. This wasn't just a couple of isolated villages huddling together. This was a highly interconnected network of cities and settlements.
There's a famous historical saying that civilizations aren't just accidents, they're the outcomes of really long historical processes. And that's exactly what happened here. We start way back with early Neolithic settlements, figuring out basic agriculture. All that surplus food, well, that leads to craft specialization. People have time to make things, so they start trading. That trade sparks urbanization, which just rapidly accelerates human progress, ultimately bringing us to the incredible mature Indus Valley civilization around 2600 BCE. It is literally a step-by-step masterclass in human development.
Moving right along to Section 2, tracing the ancient timeline. To properly investigate these origins, we need to firmly anchor ourselves in time. We're essentially looking at 3 distinct phases here. Starting way back at 3300 BCE, we have the early Harappan phase. This is characterized by rural settlements, kind of the very beginnings of village life and agriculture. Then we hit the absolute golden age, the mature Harappan phase at 2600 BCE. This is peak urbanization. We're talking incredibly planned cities, advanced drainage systems, and a fully functioning script. Finally, around 1900 BCE, the late Harappan phase begins, which sadly marks a decline in those cities and a slow return to ruralization.
Now, you might be wondering, how do we actually know all these dates? We aren't just guessing here. We know this thanks to some seriously hard science. Archaeologists rely heavily on radiocarbon dating of everyday, mundane items, think pottery and charred grains. They also conduct these incredibly meticulous stratigraphic excavations, digging layer by careful layer at major sites like Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, Kalibangan, and Lothal. Add in some complex geological and paleo-environmental studies, and we've got ourselves a rock-solid scientific foundation for this timeline.
And those excavations unearth some truly incredible artifacts that do a lot more than just show us how old the civilization is. They actually offer a window into their minds. Take the iconic unicorn seal from Harappa. It perfectly showcases their unique language and fine craftsmanship. Then you've got the famous bronze dancing girl and the massive Great Bath from Mohenjo-Daro, both hinting at some pretty complex social and religious rituals. And the beautiful painted pottery from Kalibangan gives us a real sense of their everyday aesthetic. These aren't just dusty old objects, you know. They are crucial pieces of a highly sophisticated puzzle.
All right, on to Section 3, debating the origins.
So with this massive, deeply sophisticated civilization firmly mapped out on our timeline, we hit the central historical debate. Did this highly advanced society come from external invaders, or did it grow from the ground up? Historians and archaeologists have literally argued for decades over this exact question. Was the Harappan culture imported from the outside, or did it evolve naturally, right there on the Indian subcontinent? It's the classic historical clash between foreign origins and indigenous evolution.
Before we jump to the extreme ends of that debate, we really should understand the middle ground. Enter the diffusion, or composite theory, proposed by scholars like D.D. Kosambi and Romila Tupper. This theory suggests that while the base of the civilization was entirely local, it simply borrowed and exchanged ideas through active trade with places like Mesopotamia, Oman, and Central Asia. In other words, they were homegrown, but they definitely weren't isolated from the rest of the world.
And this brings us to the 2 heavyweight theories battling it out. On one side, you have the foreign origin theory, championed early on by V. Gordon Childe. He argued that this urban civilization was essentially a gift from Mesopotamia, either through migration or direct influence. On the flip side is the indigenous evolution theory, backed by folks like R.E.M. Wheeler and B.B. Lal, stating that the Indus Valley was actually the culmination of a long, completely local process of cultural development.
Actually, there is one more old theory we need to mention, mostly just so we can throw it in the trash. We can easily cross the old colonial Aryan origin theory right off our suspect list. Why? Because the timeline completely contradicts it. Early colonial scholars thought Aryans created the civilization, but the Aryan migration happened around 1500 BCE. The Indus Valley civilization was already thriving by 3300 BCE. Plus, there is zero archaeological evidence of an Aryan presence in IVC sites, and their cultural patterns, rural versus urban, are just entirely different. So, case closed on that one.
Let's look closer at the facts in Section 4, the homegrown evidence.
Now let's bring in the definitive proof that finally solves our mystery. The archaeological evidence overwhelmingly favors a homegrown origin. When researchers actually look at the dirt, they see a clear, unbroken line of cultural continuity stretching all the way back to ancient sites like Mehrgarh around 7000 BCE, flowing right into the early and then mature Harappan phases. We see the gradual, step-by-step improvement in their tools, their pottery, and even their brick-making. There is absolutely zero evidence of a sudden invasion or mass migration. It's just the steady, organic development of agriculture, craft, and trade right there in the region.
Furthermore, the foreign origin theory completely falls apart under modern scrutiny. Think about it. The Indus Valley had a totally distinct script, vastly different urban planning, and an entirely unique material culture compared to Mesopotamia. We haven't found any skeletal evidence to suggest a massive influx of new people. And the real nail in the coffin here, the chronology shows that the Indus Valley civilization is actually older than many developed cities in West Asia. And let's be real, you can't be spawned by a civilization that you're actually older than. Any similarities they share can easily be explained by basic trade, not a massive migration.
So, what is the final verdict of our historical whodunit? Well, the indigenous evolution theory is by far the strongest, most scientifically accepted answer today. The diffusion theory holds water as a solid secondary explanation for how trade enriched them, making it moderately accepted. Meanwhile, the foreign origin and Aryan origin theories are largely or entirely rejected. So the mystery is solved. The Indus Valley was an incredibly advanced, totally homegrown marvel.
Finally, Section 5, the Living Indus Legacy.
So why does tracing this ancient origin story actually matter to us today? Well, this brilliant quote from historian Romila Thapar perfectly captures the final consensus. She states that the IVC was the result of indigenous growth with interaction, not imitation. The Indus Valley civilization was absolutely not some imported culture. It was a uniquely local triumph, an amazing process of independent development that was certainly enriched by external contacts, but fundamentally and proudly their own.
And we can actually see this incredible legacy being honored and protected today. Programs like India's National Mission on Monuments and Antiquities are completely dedicated to preserving this history. A shining example of this is the recognition of Dholavira, which is this magnificent ancient city as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It really reflects a modern commitment to ensuring this ancient, deeply rooted heritage isn't just lost to time, but preserved to inspire future generations.
But hey, the investigation is far from over. Archaeology is moving forward at lightning speed. Today, experts are using cutting-edge interdisciplinary research. We're looking at ancient DNA and paleoclimate studies to truly understand who these people were and the changing environment they lived in. We're using advanced technologies like satellite imagery, GIS, and remote sensing to track down lost cities. We're even diving deep with underwater archaeology to explore sunken coastal sites. All of this, paired with dedicated protection and conservation, means there are still some amazing discoveries just waiting to be made.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. We've established that the Indus Valley civilization was a brilliantly homegrown society, completely capable of engineering beautifully planned cities with advanced drainage systems, straight streets, and incredible architecture, all without outside help. So if a society back in 2600 BCE could figure out sustainable, perfectly planned urban living right from the ground up, what lessons can our modern city planners learn from them right now? Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.